Welcome to the Self-Growth Nerds podcast. I'm your host, Marie, a courage coach, creative soul, and adventure seeker. Since through hiking the Pacific Crest Trail in 2019, I'm on a mission to help you embrace your most confident self so you can achieve your dreams too. If you're eager for deep conversations, big questions, and meaningful connections, join me on the quest to discovering how we can create a more magical and memorable life. Hello, nerds! How are you? I'm good. Today I have such a good episode for you. It's going to serve as a reality check with a bit of tough love in there. So we're talking about why your grand plans almost always fail. And what I mean by grand plans, I mean when you decide, okay, this is it. This is the time. This is when I'm going to start working out. Kind of like New Year resolution approach. Okay, from now on, I'm going to journal every morning. I'm going to prep my meals for the whole week every Sunday. This is what Judith Gatton calls the grand announcement cycle. Judith Gatton is a style coach for curvy women. She's amazing, super smart. Look her up. So the grand announcement cycle is when you're unhappy with one or more aspects in your life. You know you need to make a change. And so you make a grand announcement. You're like, this is it. I've found the answer. Then you make a sexy plan and you get a dopamine hit. But it's not a plan that's adapted to the real human that you are. It's a plan for this perfect version of you that you have in your mind. And so then you start taking action. And as Judith frames it, she says, you get a case of the fuck it. Fuck it. And you drop the plan. Then you're in pain again. And you start the cycle over and over again. And the result of that is that sometimes you just stop trusting yourself. You create this identity as a person who doesn't show up for themselves. And you're hesitant to make a commitment because you've gathered past experiences of you giving up on your word. Okay, this is not good for your self-esteem. So what we're going to do today is dissect this cycle, go deeper into each step to make sure that we understand what's going on underneath our unconscious actions. And then look at a solution. How do you interrupt that pattern so that you actually start showing up for yourself and doing what you decided you were going to do to rebuild and strengthen your integrity moving forward? So let's do this. So you're in a place where you're dissatisfied and you want to make a change. So you make this grand announcement. It sounds like, okay, from now on, I'm going to ... fill in the blank. Journal every morning, prep my meals every Sunday, go to the theater every month, go on a romantic weekend getaway with my partner every season. For me, at the start of this year, it was, okay, I'm going to make $300,000 in my business this year, and next year I'm going to have a baby. Sounds so perfect. Okay, I've got this. There's excitement in the air. Then after you've made the grand announcement, you start making a sexy sounding plan and very often a sexy looking new notebook. I know I've done this. I bet you have done this. Like buy a new notebook. You're like, this is a new beginning. I'm going to be a new person and this time it's going to work. So you buy new shoes, a new pair of leggings. You start thinking about where your first weekend getaway is going to be. Maybe you book the first one. In terms of business model, you start thinking, okay, how am I going to bring in this money? And in writing, on paper, it looks amazing. But it's not a plan that's adapted to the real human. It's a plan for this carefully crafted version of yourself that you wish you were. The person that we are, on our best days, when we have all the willpower and the energy in the world, when nothing, like no one's getting in our way, we feel like we're invincible, super positive, no one's annoying us, this perfect version of us, this is who we make a plan for. We look at our plan and we're on a high. We think like, this is it. I found the answer to my dissatisfaction. And this might make us feel like our intuition is saying, fuck yes, this is the path. But we have to be careful because very often what's going on is we just got a dopamine hit. We feel like, okay, this is what's going to save me. This is what's finally going to make me happy. You're not excited by the actual thing you want to do. You're excited by the story your mind makes up about what doing that thing would mean about you as a person. Now, don't get me wrong. The plan or the goals that you have are not the problem. It's where they're coming from that we want to get curious about. What's the energy behind them? What's the fuel? Because you can set the same goal from two different energies, and the fuel you put in the car is going to determine what the journey feels like and how far you get to. By the way, if you want to learn more about that specifically, I have a podcast episode called The Energy Behind Your Actions. That's really good. So I'm going to give you hints now, signs that you might be coming from a place of not enoughness when you set a goal, when you make a plan. Okay? First, well, you think either consciously or unconsciously that you will like yourself better once you do the thing. You want to be someone who has done that thing versus actually being in the doing. Kind of like, I think it's Mark Twain who says classics, like reading the classics is not something we want to do. It's something we want to have done. I want to be the kind of person who has read all the classics, but I don't actually care about reading them. So if that's what's going on when you're honest with yourself, because your ego is not going to want to let you know that that's what's happening. You kind of have to put the ego aside and get really open with yourself. So in other words, it's like you want to be at the end of it. You want to have the plan finished, but you don't really want to go through the efforts it takes to get there. Like, do you want to through hike the Pacific Crest Trail, or you want to be someone who has through hiked the Pacific Crest Trail? These are two very different things. Because if you just like the idea of being someone who, that is most likely not going to be fuel that's strong enough to get you going. Same thing with business. Lots of people say, oh, I want to have my own business. I want to be self-employed. Because it sounds good. It sounds good. You have all the freedom to do whatever you want. But you forget to consider what it takes, the work that it takes to get there. So that's why when we start taking action from that place, we very quickly get discouraged. And that's if we even start. Because sometimes you make like a grand announcement and then you wake up the next day and you're like, oh, I thought I was going to wake up at 5 and do this like 7-step morning routine, but I'm just same old me. You're like, you wake up and you're like, oh shit. I guess willpower is not going to be enough because I still find it super challenging to wake up in the morning. So you realize that the doing is not as exciting as the thinking about the doing. That you were getting your dopamine from the thinking about the plan, not about the actual actions that were going to come once you start executing the plan. See the difference? The plan that you had made expected you to be at your best every single day, not to have PMS, to suddenly have the motivation to get up early, motivation that you've had maybe twice in your life, and it was when you had to catch a flight to go somewhere exciting. So here's the thing. You were using the plan as a way to make you feel better about yourself. Using the idea of who you'll be once you do the thing and how that will make you feel about yourself to fuel you forward. That's not enough to move through real life obstacles. Or it can be. Some people get really far from a place of self-hatred. They hate themselves so much that they're going to white knuckle their way forward, and some of them are going to get really fit and really rich, but the whole time They were pushing like a square peg in a round hole. It's the fuel of inadequacy disguised as self-improvement. So we have to be very careful and practice self-awareness and self-compassion, because this is very subtle. Again, your ego wants you to believe that it makes sense. It's just you're an aspirational person, ambitious person. And part of that is true. But part of it is also about seeking worthiness in places that are never going to give it to you. This reminds me of relationships. When you're dating and then you meet someone, you get really infatuated. You have to get curious about the energy behind the infatuation. Are you using them as a way to feel better about yourself? To feel more whole, to feel more worthy, like, oh, I've finally been chosen, or I'm finally complete. Obviously, you're not going to have these thoughts consciously. You have to sometimes just be in your body and see if there's like a desperate kind of energy, like finally I've been saved by this person or by this plan or by this new resolution. Let's use through hiking as an example again. Hiking is a metaphor for life. People who love the idea of being a through hiker, they go and start hiking, and then some of them are going to quit super early, like a few days in, 3, 4, 5 days in. And that's fine. That doesn't say anything about your character as a person. It's not morally wrong. But when we reassure them and we say, like, it's hard, you did your best, you tried, at least you tried, we're missing an opportunity to tell the truth. Which, obviously, I'm not in everyone's shoes, so I cannot speak for you specifically. I can just speak to what I've observed in many people that I've spoken with. So what I've observed is that they loved the story their mind was making up about what it means to be a thru hiker. Like, it sounds like a good story for your memoir. Want to be like Wild, Cheryl Strayed, but you didn't consider the real price to pay. You wanted the reward, but you didn't want the journey. And that's okay. There is no shame in that at all. There's lots of journeys I don't want. I love the idea of being a surfer, but I don't want the journey of learning to surf. It's all about being honest with yourself. Don't choose a goal for the reward. Choose for the learnings along the way. Because if you choose for the reward only, if you choose the through hike because you think that'll be a good story, then you're not going to have what it takes in you, the grit, the determination to follow through to the end. You're going to get discouraged. And then if you miss the opportunity to gain self-awareness, to be honest with yourself, to really uncover this pattern, you're going to eventually be in pain again, feel like your life is not as satisfying as you want to be, and then you're going to start the cycle over and over again in different areas of your life until you just decide to give up and not try again because you've eroded your self-esteem by gathering all the evidence that you can't succeed, that you fail again and again and again. And that is so sad. I don't want this for anyone. So let's talk about what we can do to break that pattern. Okay, so first, the doing has to be as interesting as the planning. Yes, it's scary. Yes, there might be a lot of obstacles that you have to overcome when you're doing the thing, but you want to learn from overcoming those obstacles. You're not trying to avoid them. You're not blind to the obstacles. You see them clearly and you choose them. This reminds me of when my aunt told me, when you meet a partner, you have to be honest about what their flaws are, and you have to choose them for their flaws more than you choose them for their qualities. And I don't know that I would say this, but I see what she meant. You don't want to put your hand in the sand and deny what's real. You have to choose the person, or you have to choose the goal you're setting with eyes wide open. If you're going to commit, you got to commit with eyes wide open, saying, I want all of this. I'm going to love the reward. Yes, through hiking is a good story, but I'm doing this because for me personally, because I wanted to live in the woods, experience a different lifestyle, meet amazing people. That happens while you're doing it, not after. And also, I've been going to the gym for a few months now. It's a spinning gym. They have spinning classes and they have bar classes, and I have had no issues staying committed because I just want to feel good. And every class makes me feel good. Yes, I don't always feel like going before, but I go anyway because I just want to feel strong and feel confident and feel the peace that comes at the end of every single class. So that's step one. You have to see value in the doing of your plan, not just get dopamine from the planning itself. Step two is make a plan for the real you. The you who hates to get up early in the morning. She has to be considered. Okay? Otherwise, it's not sustainable. So I'm not going to sign up to the 7:30 a.m. spinning classes. That would just be like punching myself in the face. So I plan accordingly. How would you plan to reach your goal if you had your own back? If you loved yourself exactly as you are, what would that look like? For me, when it comes to business, it often looks like going more slowly. When I'm coming from an energy of inadequacy, I try to rush. I try to do a lot really fast because I'm thinking unconsciously, okay, once I get there, then I'll feel adequate. But in the meantime, I am not. And so let's get there as fast as possible so that I don't have to feel this way. But when I have my own back, when I accept who I am and where I am, then I'm safe to slow down. And this brings me to step 3, which is you have to make sure you are safe where you are before you start moving towards your goal, seeking the illusion of safety somewhere else. This is really important. If there's a part of you that's like desperate to be somewhere else, to a place where you'll feel more lovable, then you're starting on the wrong foot. You have to figure out how to be okay with who you are right now. And if we think about relationships, it's being okay with being alone. Once you're okay with being alone, you can still have a preference for being with someone else, but they're just a bonus to what you already have. Same thing with goals. You have to be okay with where you are. And being okay with where you are doesn't mean like being super happy and enthusiastic about where you are, but being in acceptance and at peace. And you're not coming from a place where you're trying to fix yourself. You're coming from a place where, okay, let's see what I can add. What's the cherry on top of the sundae? Sunday's already delicious. Let's see how we can make it extra. That's why with so many of my clients, when they come in and want to start coaching, they're coming from a place of inadequacy and they want me to help get them where they're going to feel better about themselves. But that's often not the work that we do. That's often not the plate that I'm going to serve them. And instead, what we're going to work on is how to accept yourself as you are, where you are. And then from that foundation of self-acceptance, then you're going to do work moving forward. You're going to work towards your goals in a way that's so much more enjoyable, so much more sustainable. Okay? So let's recap the solution to this grand announcement cycle. First, you've got to get curious about why. Why do you want to do this? What's your reason? And does this reason come from a place of ego, like it's going to look good? Or does it come from soul? Does it come from your heart? Does it come from deep desire? Sometimes you're not going to have the answer right away. You might be listening to me right now and feeling confused. And that's why you need to sit with yourself or go for a walk and really drop drop into your body and see what feels true when you think about this goal that you may have. Do you feel contracted on the inside, like I have to make it work, like gritted teeth? Or do you feel expansive, like you can breathe easily, like you're excited about what you're going to learn on this journey? And it's okay. Sometimes your goal, but actually very often your goal, when it comes from deep desire, is going to feel scary as fuck. Scary. And like you're going to experience resistance, but you have a deep inner pull. You've got to go in that direction. That's very different from that desperate energy that's trying to fill a hole inside yourself. So that's step 1. And then step 2, you've got to make a plan. If you realize the plan was not realistic, or maybe you're just going to drop the goal altogether. I've done that many times, realizing I made a plan from a place of ego and then dropping the goal altogether to figure out what I really want from the depth of my heart. But if you decide, okay, no, I want to keep the goal, I just want to change the plan, make the plan more sustainable, then step 2 is making a plan for the real you with all of your strengths and flaws. And lastly, step 3 is just make sure before you start moving forward that you're safe where you are, that you're not in a rush. Actually, I'm realizing it as I share this, that step 3 is just part of step 1. So basically there's just 2 steps. Step 1 is make sure this is coming from the right place and that you have sustainable fuel. And step 2 is make a plan for the real you. All right. That's it for this week. Please reach out if this was helpful for you, or listen to this again and again, because I know many of you are stuck in this cycle. I know that I've been many times, and I thought I was over it. I thought I'd grown out of it, and then I fell back into it, and I will probably fall into it again. So it's just, reminding ourselves, yeah, I was doing this again. That's okay. Let's just realign and move forward with a different fuel. Getting better and better and better at seeing ourselves clearly and loving ourselves better. So that's it for this week. Have a beautiful week, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. If you love what you're hearing on the Self-Growth Nerds podcast and you want individual help finding a new direction for your life and developing the courage to make your dreams a reality, you have to check out how we can work together on selfgrowthnerds.com or message me on Instagram at selfgrowthnerds. My clients say they would have needed that support years ago. So if you're tired of feeling like you're wasting your life, don't wait. Get in touch now, and I cannot wait to meet you.